Just listen to that. That is the sound of nature. We are in the midst of the Yanbaru, the forests of northern Okinawa, because today I've come to photograph Fukugawa Falls. Okay, one of the leading waterfalls in Okinawa. It's a bit of a walk from here. We're going to be spending a large part of the day up to our waist or up to our knees in water, hopefully. But what I'm going to do, the aim of today, is I'm going to show you how to go about photographing waterfalls in order to achieve that nice long flowing water effect using KANI filters and my trusted Canon EOS 5 DSR. Good to go. So to get to Fukugawa Falls, we park on this road here, and when you get to the car park, you'll see there's just like this dead end here. You come down, and just 50 yards along the road, you've got this little entrance into the woods, into the forest. What an absolutely stunning location. The waterfall is probably about another 5 minutes walk up this path. But I just wanted to touch on one point. In Okinawa, we do actually have 3 venomous species of snake. Collectively, they're called the habu. It's a pit viper. They live in this area as well as most of the forests in Okinawa. Rest assured, if I see one, I'll introduce you guys. Hopefully they're off doing their thing, we won't cross paths, everything will be cool. Well, I guess if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Push on. If every great journey has to start with just one step, then surely every slip, every drop of sweat, every ounce of effort to get here, not only is it half of the adventure, but the payoff to be ending up in a place like this has certainly got to be worth it. This really is Okinawa. Although this is one of the most beautiful scenes in Okinawa to photograph, it also happens to throw up quite a number of challenges. When you're looking at the waterfall, what you'll notice is that the more on the left-hand side of the image generally tends to be more like a shaded area, and also this water feature that's just in front of us here, also the smaller fall, that in itself generally tends to be nice and shadowed. In the right hand side of the image, because we've got a large hole in the canopy on the right hand side, what you generally tend to find is there's a lot of light fall on that side of the image. Now, when you're using a lens with as wide an angle as the Irix 15mm that I've got fitted to my camera now, you need to combat that brighter right-hand side of the image, and the way that I do that is by using a graduated neutral density filter. Now, as I mentioned, the problem area in this particular image is on the right hand side. Don't always think because you're using a gradual neutral density filter that it needs to be vertical, okay? The filter holder swivels for a reason. Now, if our bias of overbearing lightness or brightness is on the right hand side of the image, then quite simply rotate your filter holder until the graduated neutral density element of your lens is able to counteract the brightness that you need to avoid or reduce in your composition. Now, I'm very happy with that composition, okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce another filter in order for us to get the effect that we want with the slow water. For this shot, I'm going to be using the neutral density 64, which is a 6-stop neutral density filter. It reduces the amount of light by 6 stops that going into the camera. It comes, as do all KANI filters, in its own padded transport case. And as you can see, if you're looking at the waterfall behind us here, if I hold up the filter there, it almost looks like you won't be able to see anything through it, but believe me, it works just fine. Okay, this will allow us to accomplish the look we're after with slowing down the water. Now you may find that it's got a bit of a magenta kind of finish to it, but that does not impact the image whatsoever. Okay, and you'll see that in a short while. Okay, so before we can put our ND64 in place, we need to find out what our shutter speed's going to be. What I do is I'll compose my image, get my graduated neutral density filter in place, get the composition sorted, and make sure that everything's locked down tripod-wise. From there, I switch from manual to aperture priority, which is marked as AV on Canons. Okay, I select the f-stop that I wish to shoot at because I'm choosing the depth of field that I want to have for the shot. And once I meter with that f-stop, I will then be given a metered shutter speed. Okay, what I then do, because I need to know what my adjusted shutter speed is going to be, I will call up a ND table that I've got on my iPhone. What I do is I will consult that looking under the column for a 6-stop ND filter. I will look on the side on the column that gives me my shutter speed of 1/60th, and that tells me if my unfiltered shutter speed is 1/60th of a second. Once I introduce a 6-stop filter, it's going to give me an adjusted shutter speed of 1 second using an ND64. Okay, and so then what I do is I will switch my camera back to manual, put all of that information into the camera, the aperture, my ISO, and that adjusted shutter speed. And only once everything is good to go, the composition, the focus, everything, I will introduce my ND64 and take the shot. Well, as you can see, I've changed my composition, and I've elected this time to change the orientation of my camera. I'm now shooting in portrait mode because I've got this really, really beautiful kind of small waterfall in the foreground. That's my main foreground element, and I've got the waterfall in the background, albeit this very small flow of a waterfall in the background. Because I'm changed my orientation, I've got a more vertical shot. There's quite a bit of light in the top part of the image, so what I've done is I've put my neutral density filter in, my gradual neutral density filter, and I've set my graduation point to try and eliminate as much as possible the glare or the light that's seeping in at the top of the image. Okay, I've got my ND64 in place. I done my calculations using aperture priority, and that gave me, without an unfiltered shutter speed of 1.3 seconds. Okay, now that I've introduced my neutral density 64 filter, that gives me an adjusted shutter speed of 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now, because I cannot put 1 minute and 20 seconds into the default setting of the shutter speed, I have to use an electronic shutter release. Okay, so the camera now is in bulb mode. I've plugged in my electronic cable release, okay? And in the long exposure mode, all I've done is I've entered in the shutter speed of 1 minute 20, and all that I now need to do is just hit the start button, and the camera now exposes for the shot. There's a saying in Okinawa, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. What started out as a beautiful, glorious day has ended up wet and dreary. Yep, the skies have opened up, the rains have started to come down. Fortunately, there's this little hut between the waterfall and the parking area, so I'm just going to wait out the weather here. Cheers guys, see you next time.